were going to be a producer in Hollywood, and you want to produce a movie with a hockey theme, and I wanted to cast the lead, I wouldn't get a Hollywood actor. I'd get Ronnie Duguay.
He had the curly, brownish hair, and it would blow in the wind. The guy never wore a helmet.
He played with no helmet, and he had this long, flowing hair, and he was really graceful to watch. I actually became a hockey fan because of watching him.
It was like there was a spotlight on him, even though there wasn't, because he arrested your attention just by his looks.
For me, my hair is important, as it is today. You know, I like to wear my hair long. I felt this feeling of freedom. I like skating with, you know, the hair going and stuff, and I just felt free, and I felt more relaxed, and I felt better as a player.
That head kind of bobbing and the legs turning and that running, skating motion that he had. And he was an energy catalyst.
He looked like a gazelle with legs flying, arms going, hair going. I mean, he could fly, man. He could skate hard and fly, and the hair was going. It was fun to watch.
He was just a good-looking guy who played to the crowd, too. He knew how to do it.
In front, Duguay, score!
I play with a certain amount of energy, a certain amount of flair. You're always trying to create some energy on the ice, you know? I'm going to take the body, I'm going to hit someone, and as soon as you do that, the fans jump up and they love it. So it creates this energy and momentum.
I think Ron energized the crowd in the Garden just by walking out on the ice. The minute he came out on the ice, when it was time for his shift, there definitely was a buzz in that building.
There was a flamboyance to his game that really did stand out. So there was a lot to him that really kind of fit with everything that was to become Ron Duguay on Broadway.
As he streaked up and down the ice with his flowing locks, Ron Duguay grabbed the attention of the Garden crowd. That signature hair and his movie star good looks made him a fixture on the glamorous New York social scene.
It was about the best social scene time ever. The nightlife was Studio 54 and going from one hot restaurant at the time to another and moving around in the, you know, the athlete and model circles. And everybody was beautiful and young and fun and nice. And it was a very exciting time.
Nightlife back in 78, 79, that's when Studio 54 was alive and wild. And, you know, I was part of all that because I was introduced to it. And, you know, as a young man, you know, I wanted to have fun like everybody else.
At that time, no one ever knew a hockey player unless you were a hockey fan. Suddenly this beautiful, graceful skater, you know, emerges, and now people say, oh, hockey, and it took on a whole different meaning.
Dukes just had this thing about him, you know, the hair, the looks, the attitude. I mean, he was like Mr. New York. I mean, women loved him, Page Six loved him.
Suddenly I had like 100 girls wanted to see me on the days that they knew that Ron was coming up to the office. The models, who had their choice of any man in the world, they loved him.
Ron was as popular as you could get. Again, the looks, the long hair, and then the talent. It was a combination that you couldn't beat, and it just grew. I mean, he was tremendously popular.
It was like, okay, what's Ronnie doing today? You know, it was like a lot of people lived through him. He was kind of like this mini legend.
My memory of him is a great guy who came to New York and took over this town and just became a very, very good hockey player in the middle of it that people seem to forget.
Rivalry between the Rangers and the Islanders is unlike any rivalry that I was part of.
We hated them and they hated us.
You could not find the word that would describe the intensity of the Islander-Ranger rivalry.
Well, I think you'd think that if you looked at his face, he was soft. He was anything but that. Duguay would go. I mean, he would drop his gloves and go.
Back in 77, 78, 79, 80, a lot of tough guys out there. And some guys were testing me. And I fought some of the tougher guys in the league, and right away, they knew that, you know, if I was going to get pushed or if the push comes to shove, I was going to stand up and fight him.
Nobody messes much with Duguay if they've watched him before. That's as good a jab as you'll see any place, and Flint didn't know what to do with it.
He didn't shy back from anything. There was a fight to come. Ronnie was in it. There was the mix it up, body checking, going to the net. He was there.
Ron Dugay's toughness was the product of growing up outside the rugged mining town of Sudbury, Ontario. Enduring many harsh winters, he honed his game and developed skills well beyond his age. His hard work paid off when at age 16, he joined the hometown Sudbury Wolves of the Ontario Hockey Association.
Sudbury, Ontario is about two things: the mining of nickel and the Sudbury Wolves.
You know, if you played for the Sudbury Wolves, it was a badge of honor. The quality of hockey in those days was very, very high.
What made it easy for me, and it set me up to be successful with the Sudbury Wolves, that I had the opportunity to be close to home. I had the proper team around me, which was my family and mainly my dad.
Doogie's father started him on a weight training program pretty early, and he was a pretty strong young man.
That strength paid off. In his third and fourth seasons with the Wolves, Duguay scored over 100 points and caught the attention of the NHL. In 1977, the Rangers made Duguay the 13th overall pick in the draft, bringing the small-town kid from Sudbury to the bright lights of Madison Square Garden.
Everyone felt like my style of play was really suited to go to New York City. You know, I'm not a complicated person. I'm not a complicated guy. You just drop the puck and, hey, let's go.
Hockey players leave home when they're 15, 16 years old to go and play in the juniors and come to New York and thrown into this thing. And Ron adjusted to it. He figured out how to handle it at a really young age.
I'm with some of the greatest players in the biggest city, in the wildest building with the wildest fans. And I felt like I'm going to have a lot of fun with this, not only as a player, but as a person.
Duguay didn't have problems adjusting to his new surroundings, but he did have to cope with a new hairstyle after he fell victim to a traditional initiation ritual.
Ronnie had his head shaven by his ritualistic teammates, and probably other parts of his body as well were shaven.
He was a target right from day one.
He had the no hair before Michael Jordan. I helped in that.
That's probably my worst day as a New York Ranger because, you know, I took my helmet off for a reason. I wanted to show off my hair, you know, and there I have no more hair. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to wear a helmet for a while, right? Well, the fans were waiting for this because it was in a newspaper that I had my head shaved, right? And so all the fans were waiting in warm-up by the glass. I come up with my helmet on, and within 2 minutes, they're all chanting, "Take the helmet off!"
All the people were chanting, "Take it off," he took it off. I think they loved him more for that.
I get reminded every once in a while about that day when I see my rookie card, how bad I looked.
Duguay was part of a young nucleus the Rangers were developing around the legendary Phil Esposito. New York lost in the first round of the playoffs in Duguay's rookie season, but the next year, the Rangers were suddenly playing like championship contenders as they headed into the 1979 playoffs.
As the season went on, we just had so much fun on and off the ice that we just grew. We became a team. We became a pack, like a pack of wolves.
We had come off beating LA in the first round, and we beat Philadelphia in 5 games in the second round. We were on fire.
The Rangers outscored the Flyers 28-8 in the quarterfinals of the '79 playoffs and were riding a huge wave of momentum heading into a semifinal matchup with the hated New York Islanders.
The Islanders, by '79, were the premier team, and the Rangers were kind of an upstart.
The rivalry between the Rangers and the Islanders is unlike any rivalry that I was part of.
We hated them and they hated us.
Well, you could go to Webster's Dictionary or Funkin' Wagnall's Dictionary. You could not find the word that would describe the intensity of the Islander-Ranger rivalry.
The anticipation of that series in '79 was as big as anything I've ever remembered happening in New York.
Shot by Gressner. Shot, save, rebound. 4 seconds is in front. Rangers will.
That was one of the greatest series I think that I've ever played in.
The bottom line was that the Rangers took over the series. An enormous upset. A huge, huge thing for the Rangers.
At that point, it meant everything. I remember the New York Post the day after that series was won. Victory, it said, in big red letters, just simply victory in red letters on the back page. It was phenomenal.
And so this was it. I mean, this was as big as it gets. And now, do we have a chance? We're going to win the cup after all these years. Is it going to really happen again? Is this going to be it? And so it was tremendous.
He milked the apple for everything there was in it.
Yeah, I became somewhat of a New York celebrity as a hockey player.
when they went to the Stanley Cup Finals against Montreal in '79, I believe it was the New York Post that had the headline, New York is a hockey town now.
The better we got, the more the fans realized, boy, we got a real chance of winning Stanley Cup. So the energy just grew. And at one point, I mean, you step on the ice, even in warm-ups, and the goosebumps you'd get just from the noise they would make. I couldn't think straight because I was so excited.
After the incredible win against the Islanders, the Rangers just didn't have enough left in the finals, falling to the Canadiens in 5 games. But even in defeat, the Rangers' magical playoff run had enchanted the city of New York.
When you go to the hockey games, it was rocking, and it was young and fun, and it was so electric.
It was a scene at the games. All the big-time people were there. Andy Warhol and McEnroe and Cheryl Teague, and name them. They were all at the games.
I remember the Daily News headline saying, "Can you believe $500 for a hockey ticket?" And that was 1979. That's 25 years ago.
It was enormous in New York. You walk into Studio 54 with a bunch of New York Rangers, you were cool.
Going to the finals and, everyone watching, I got a lot of ice time. Freddie Shearer used me a lot. I was penalty killing and taking draws. I was out there quite a bit. And, I became somewhat of a New York celebrity as a hockey player.
Even though there were a lot of other outstanding players on that team, he became the leading public figure of the team.
He milked the apple for everything there was in it. His picture would wind up in page 6 of the Post, where a dashing, debonair athlete should be.
Ron Duguay was definitely the most known celebrity on that team and in this city. And he was the man. He was the man. Everybody wanted a piece of him.
Doing the Sassoon Jean commercial was a blast because, again, I did it with my teammates, and we just had a good old time doing something that's kind of out of our comfort zone. It caught on with the fans. You'd hear the ooh la la Sassoon at the Garden. Ooh la la Sassoon. Ooh la la Sassoon.
This put him on everybody's map. I mean, this was an amazing commercial, sexy, and it all just worked for him. And from there, he did other modeling, and he was now called on to Interview magazine.
Here was this guy who was put on the front cover of Andy Warhol's Interview magazine. Andy
Warhol just knew what was ultimately cool. That was a really big deal. And that Interview cover was so fabulous looking. It was so cool.
Before this Ranger team, Andy Warhol didn't know a hockey puck from a paintbrush. And then for him to put Ron Duguay on the cover of Interview magazine and do an interview with him was amazing.
I took one day at a time, and it seemed like one thing led to another. The thing with me is I understood that if I'm going to get in the public eye, I better be performing, because if I'm not performing, all this is going to backfire.
Hockey was always first and foremost, though there were no protracted discussions about it. That was his job. And this was a second job, going out and modeling and doing that sort of thing.
Duguay was the Rangers' most visible player, but on the stat sheet, his contributions to the team could be overlooked. 4 seasons into his NHL career, he had yet to finish higher than 5th on the Rangers' scoring list. But what he did bring to the team couldn't be ignored.
I don't think in Dugay's case that stats are a good barometer because he did so many things right. It was the little things that people don't necessarily go to hockey games for that made him excel.
This guy worked hard on the ice, played hard. If it was physical, Ronnie was there. If it was a skill game, Ronnie could be there. He skated hard, and he worked at his game.
Despite battling injuries during the 1980-1981 season, Duguay was selected to represent Canada in the 1981 Canada Cup. Playing alongside greats like Wayne Gretzky, Larry Robinson, and Guy Lafleur, Duguay found a new confidence in his game, which carried over into the next season with the Rangers and their new head coach, Herb Brooks.
There's Herb Brooks, who he had come in after winning gold medal, came in with some new ideas, new style, more open.
That type of style would be very conducive to success for a player like Ron Duguay because his assets were his legs and his feet and his speed.
He was playing with Mark Pavlich as a centerman. And him and Mark just had that chemistry together.
I got a lot of opportunities with little Mark Pavlich. He got me the puck quite a bit, and it just allowed me to have the best, probably, goals scoring year of my career.
Duguay would finish the season scoring 40 goals and was named an All-Star for the first time in his career. In only his 5th season, he seemed headed for superstar status, both on and off the ice.
The fans got on him, and they started to boo him, and that Doogie turned into boos, and he was really hurt by that.
It's rewarding when you do well, but when you fall behind a little bit, it gets a little tough, it gets frustrating.
From the time Ron Duguay first skated on the Madison Square Garden ice, he was anointed a star in waiting. Now that he was an all-star, there were expectations for superstardom.
The press wanted to make him Joe Namath. They wanted to make him Third Avenue Ron instead of Broadway Joe. And my sense of Ron was, it really wasn't him.
I'd get a phone call one day, hey, you want to do this? Hey, you want to try that? And if it made sense to me, I'd say, yeah, fine, let's do it.
He was like the accidental celebrity. In fact, there were a lot of things that he turned down that we couldn't believe, that he just didn't feel comfortable doing. Oh, he said, it's really good for your career. No, okay, thank you, it's fine. And who does that?
I don't think Ron Duguay said to himself, I'm going to let my hair grow real long and I'm going to become a sex symbol. I don't think that ever entered his mind.
Yeah, I'm still a little guy from Sudbury and just kind of soaking it in and just kind of going day to day. And I think what happened with me is that I was getting so much attention now that everybody's just kind of grabbing at you and wanting you, that I'm a type of person, I do need my privacy.
He was reasonably quiet, you know. He didn't seek the spotlight.
Because he didn't talk, he got the reputation of being standoffish. He's got an attitude, which is totally the opposite of what he really was.
I was being more secretive about what I was doing, and I started to act like a celebrity because I didn't know what to do because I hadn't been through it before.
One year, Ron ran into a slump, you know, and the fans got on him, and they started to boo him, and that Doogie turned into boos, and he was really hurt by that.
It's rewarding when you do well, but when you fall behind a little bit, it gets a little tough, it gets frustrating.
There was a consistency to his game that may have been lacking. And a lot of people just pointed to the nightlife and said, you know, maybe if he wasn't in the gossip columns, not in the clubs and the discos so much, maybe Duguay could harness his talent and his potential a bit better.
I think people didn't really understand or appreciate how well he focused on hockey and how much love he had for the game, because he was a serious hockey player.
When Ronnie was playing good, it was fine. When he played a bad game and his picture was somewhere, then it was a whole other story. You know, he messed up because you were out or something, but you know, those pictures were taken on Sunday nights when the game wasn't until Wednesday, but how many people knew that?
The stories of Dugay's nightlife exploits didn't sit well with Herb Brooks. Although his game had flourished under Brooks the year before, in their second season together, the player-coach relationship began to fizzle.
My nightlife, me being page 6, rubbed Herbie Brooks in the wrong way. He would have preferred that I just stay in the sports page.
If I were to pick a coach for Duguay, Herbie Brooks would not be the ideal guy, because Herbie had a stricter code than the average NHL guy behind the bench.
That season was a rough season. I didn't get the quality ice time that I wanted, so I didn't play with the players I wanted to play, so I didn't have a good season. Sure enough, at the end of the year, he traded me. It was something that I felt like it was probably going to happen, so mentally I was prepared for it, but I was very disappointed. I was probably depressed for about 2 weeks.
Duguay was traded to the Detroit Red Wings, a far cry from the bright lights of New York. His departure left a hole not only in the Rangers, but in the city of New York.
There's no Third Avenue in Detroit. You know, what is this guy going to do out there was the first question everybody had.
It's like taking Drew Barrymore and asking her to play the Wicked Witch of the West. I mean, it's out of character.
I wasn't ready for it until I got there. And once I got there, part of me felt like, you know what? I need to make a change here. I'm going to settle down, and this is going to be the new me. And so that's what happened. I ended up having 3 good years in Detroit.
In his 3 seasons in Motown, Duguay averaged 30 goals a year and helped the team reach the playoffs twice. He would play another 3 seasons in the NHL with 3 different teams, including a brief reunion with the Rangers. After leaving the NHL in 1989, Duguay sought a new path in his life, and along the way, he found love.
A mutual friend of ours mentioned to me that if you're by yourself and you're looking to meet a nice woman, I know someone, Kim Alexis. Well, sure enough, 2 days after that, I was asked to do a modeling job. So I had asked this woman, I said, who am I going to do the work with? What woman? She says, well, we don't have anyone yet. Do you have anyone you might want to recommend? I said, well, maybe Kim Alexis.
He was special. He was really unassuming. There was an appeal that I saw with models that ended up being great, particularly, and coincidentally, his wife, Kim Alexis, who was one of the most beautiful of all the girls, but almost didn't seem to know it. And that's what Ron had.
After that first photo shoot, the two began to see each other socially, and in 1993, they got married. 2 years later, Duguay returned to hockey, playing sparingly in various independent leagues. In 2002, after playing 6 games with the Jacksonville Barracudas of the Atlantic Coast Hockey League, he was hired as the team's head coach.
Ronnie was a hockey player, and he continued to be a hockey player and loved doing what he was doing. And I don't care, he didn't care if it was in Jacksonville, California, or whatever. He was still playing hockey.
I just love playing hockey. I still want to be able to go score another goal. I still want to get a thrill for myself to score a goal, and that's what led to me coaching.
When he took over this team in Jacksonville, I was like, wow, this is going to be pretty scary because now you're going to preach something to people that you always didn't do. He loves the game, and that's the best way to stay in it.
Using the lessons learned from his 12-year NHL career, Duguay led the Barracudas to a championship in his first full season as coach. Though his hair is still long, and he has the look of someone ready for a photo shoot, ultimately he is still just a kid from Sudbury who loves the game of hockey.
It's funny, as popular as he was in one context, that's the good-looking matinee idol, that image just seems to overwhelm all the other realities of what he was as a hockey player.
Ron Duguay, I don't think gets enough credit for being one of the best all-around hockey players the Rangers have ever had.
Sometimes I think he might have been better remembered if he wore a mask because he was a serious hockey player.
I like to be remembered as a player that brought people out of their seats with my style. I played with desire. I played to win. I was known as a celebrity type, flashy type, but I had the goods, and I like to be known that I played hard, played to win.